Good morning, everyone. This is Mike.
And this is Joan, and we're here to read from the County Press for Friday, the 26th of May. But first of all, I have a limited amount of society news. Tuesday, there will be 2 coffee mornings held in aid of the Society on Tuesday, 30th of May. The first at West Wight, end of the line cafe, from 10:30 a.m. till 12 p.m, and Bembridge, the Cloisters, 10:15 a.m. to 12 p.m. Please go along and support these if you are able. The Dolphins will be swimming this coming Tuesday evening, Tuesday 30th of May, at the Waterside Pool in Ryde. The swimming group has sole use of the pool during the session, and there are lifeguards in attendance. If you're interested in joining the group, please contact the Society to advise us of your swimming ability and for us to advise the Waterside Pool. Wednesday, the weekly coffee morning will be held as usual to support the Society this Wednesday, 31st May. The coffee mornings are not just for the blind and partially sighted people. Anybody can come along and have a cup of coffee or tea as well as a piece of cake. Thursday. On Thursday, 1st of June, the knitters and natterers will be meeting at Millbrook House. The group meets at 10:30 a.m. until 2 p.m. As well as the knitting, there's plenty of nattering, as well as volunteers that come in and read to the group during the afternoon. Any other news? The Royal Victoria Yacht Club at Fishbourne will be holding their annual Disabilities Open Day on Saturday, 8th of July. If you would like to attend the sailing day, please contact the Society. You will need to complete a medical form, which needs to be returned to the Society by 7th of June at the latest. This is a very good day out and has always been popular, with chances to go on a range of boats and to enjoy rides out on the water.
We move on now to the scaffolding news, for which there's quite a lot of information this week. Please find below a list of known footway obstructions for works including scaffolding or hoardings, which are unable to include end dates, as many are extended on a week-by-week basis. Also included are tables and chairs permits that have been issued in the past week. In the Bay Area, Lloyds Bank, Regent Street, Shanklin, 11 High Street, Brading. Cowes Area, the development site Castle Street, East Cowes, 43 High Street, Cowes, 30 Beckford Road, Cowes, scaffold on Consort Road, 2 Sun Hill, Cowes, the Aspect, High Street, Cowes, 272 to 283 Arctic Road, Cowes, 93 High Street, Cowes, 10 Bath Road, Cowes, which is due up until the 5th of June, Jersey Cottage, Market Hill / Sun Hill, Cowes, and then it's the Newport area. Nippert Court, West Street, Newport, Newport Minster, St Thomas's Square, Newport, the Guildhall, High Street, Newport, the TSB Bank, 119 High Street, Newport, Animal, 34 High Street, Newport, 8 Mill Street, Newport, 34 Orchard Street, Newport, Red Squirrel Property Shop, 11 St Thomas's Square, Newport. The Spectacle Maker, 81A, High Street, Newport, which is due up until the 12th of June. Current hoardings are Home Bargains, Gunville Road, Taylor Road, Carisbrooke. Then we move to the Ride area. Solent Court, Castle Street Ride. 25 George Street Ride. French Franks, James House, St Thomas's Square Ride. Ride Street Gallery, which is 129A High Street Ride. 1 Malvern Cottage, Kings Road, Bembridge. Hill Cottage, Kings Road, Bembridge. The Italian Touch, 52 Union Street Ride. 54 George Street Ride. Bembridge Sailing Club, due up until the 5th of June. And St Mary's Church, High Street Ride, due up until the 12th of June. The West Wight area is Cornerways, the Broadway, Totland. And South Wight area is the former Mill Bay Hotel, Esplanade, Ventnor. Met Bar, Esplanade Road, Ventnor. And 2 Dudley Road, Ventnor, and that's due up until the 12th of June. That finalises the scaffolding. And now we move on to the small section, This Week in Touch. In touch in this week's episode, Kirsten Hearn and Red Zell joined Peter Wight to talk about their personal experiences of having their lovers mistaken for carers when they are out together. The panel all offer advice on how to deal with awkward situations, including when a member of the public or shop assistant asks a "does he take sugar?" type of question. And that's the society news, etc.
Right, well now we do move on to the county press, and there is only one headline this week: 600, inverted commas, proper jobs. Call centre site revealed. Pledge posts will be above minimum wage, IT and manager positions. The boss of the call centre company, which is set to create up to 600 jobs in Cowes, has pledged to pay entry-level workers above the national minimum wage. In an exclusive interview with the county press, Ascensos Chief Executive John Devlin also said he wanted the jobs to go to people living on the Isle of Wight, and that a range of good quality jobs would be on offer, including IT and management positions. On Monday, the firm announced it would be opening new offices in Cowes, employing between 400 and 600 people. The contact centre will be located in 20,000 square feet of former office space at BAE Systems, radar site off Newport Road. Ascensos manages customer service inquiries for a wide range of top retail names, including Argos, B&Q, Coast, Game, Karen Millen, LK Bennett, Monsoon, Oasis, Warehouse and Wix. Mr. Devlin said the firm would work with Job Centre Plus and the Isle of Wight College, as well as launching its own social media campaign to recruit staff. He said, "We will create 400 jobs this year, possibly more, and then we will create up to 600. The contracts we have with our clients are long-term, and that will result in long-term employment for our staff. We are very keen to recruit all our Isle of Wight workforce from the Isle of Wight. Mr. Devlin said the firm employed a lot of people aged under 25, as well as people returning to work. He said the whole ethos is about looking after staff so that they in turn look after our customers. The company will be investing more than £1 million in the new facility. The Isle of Wight Council has agreed to invest £2.1 million into the project and will take out a 10-year lease on the Cowes property, which it will then let to Ascensos. The authority claims the centre will be worth around £35 million to the Isle of Wight economy. The island's facility will be the company's first outside of Scotland. It also operates in the Netherlands and Romania.
Islanders' solidarity with bomb attack victims. A special prayer service took place on the island on Tuesday in the wake of the Manchester terrorist attack. People from across the island came together at St Mary's Church at Carisbrooke in an emotional display of support for the victims of Monday's attack. As similar services took place across the country, Islanders prayed for the people involved in the incident, for the lives that were lost and for the children who were still missing. The Reverend Marcus Bagg said, "When we get disasters like this, there is a feeling in the community of wanting to help. On the island we can't give immediate practical support, but we can give prayer and we can stand alongside the people affected. That is what people on the island wanted, to show we care." It was a very solemn service, but there was an undercurrent of expectation and hope. At the service were people who grew up in the Manchester area, so obviously for them it was very personal. There was a strong feeling of support and sympathy for the people involved. It was an opportunity for us to show we as an island are coming together. More than 100 candles were lit during the service. And that follows on with another example of coordination and friendship as we learn about travel help for those stranded. In the wake of the Manchester terror attack, an Isle of Wight businessman offered help to those trying to travel home. Simon Brazier of Open Road Associates offered to give lifts to people trying to travel back to the island, Portsmouth or Southampton areas from the Ariana Grande concert, where a suicide bomber killed at least 22 people. Simon told the county press, "With the attacks in Paris and other places around the world, you feel almost powerless to help. But this is something on our own soil, and I am more than happy to help someone in genuine need." Now, this also spills over into events being held on the island, as we learn that safety of Isle of Wight festival goers and staff is paramount to us. Safety arrangements for the Isle of Wight festival are being reviewed in the wake of the Manchester bomb attack. Festival organisers said they were working closely with police to ensure the safety of all those heading to the event next month. In a statement, organisers said, "Our thoughts and love go out to the people of Manchester at this horrific time. There are no words that can do any justice to the senseless devastation and loss caused by the shocking events. The safety of our festival goers and staff is of paramount importance to us. Meanwhile, Hampshire Police said it is putting in place additional armed and unarmed patrols at key locations such as transport hubs and crowded places. Chief Superintendent Lucy Hudson said, "I would like to assure you the move to critical is something we prepare for. We will continually review our developments and take all possible steps to keep people safe within Hampshire and the Isle of Wight. At this time, we need anyone to remain alert, but not alarmed. We need your help to help us protect our communities and disrupt those who seek to harm us. To report suspicious behaviour, call the anti-terrorist hotline on 0800 789 321 or in an emergency call 999. Michael Lane, the Hampshire and Isle of Wight Police and Crime Commissioner, said, "We are blessed to have brave, prepared and professional emergency services visibly responding. Behind the scenes, there is a large number of people working with the common purpose to protect us, to prevent actions such as this, and to build vibrant, positive communities where the seeds of such evil do not flourish."
Man on armed robbery charge, with a picture of St Helens Post Office. A man accused of committing armed robbery at St Helens Post Office on Tuesday has appeared before island magistrates. David Warner, 44, of Field Lane, St Helens, is accused of possessing a bladed article and a further charge of robbery. Mr. Warner did not enter pleas when he appeared before magistrates yesterday, Thursday, and the case was adjourned to the Isle of Wight Crown Court until June the 19th. Police confirmed £750 had been confirmed. We were called to reports of an armed robbery at the post office in St Helens shortly after 4:30 p.m, a police spokesman confirmed. A man stole around £750. No one was hurt. Police units, including armed officers, responded to a 999 call to the shop. Post office owner Christine Popple said, "The two staff members, a man and a woman, were recovering after their day off on Wednesday. They were obviously very upset. It is not what you would expect to happen in a normally quiet village post office."
More criticism as AET launches consultation. The consultation on plans to shut Sandown Bay Academy and merge it with Ryde was officially launched yesterday, which was Thursday. The closure is the only option on the table in the document. AET, which runs the school, has claimed Sandown Bay Academy is unviable due to falling pupil numbers and an unsustainable deficit. But parents, students and supporters have rejected AET's claims, blaming the trust's mismanagement for the school's problems and calling for it to be removed. Those calls have been backed by politicians, including the Isle of Wight Council's Education Executive Member, Councillor Chris Whitehouse, who said AET should be barred from running any island school. Launching the consultation, AET said, "Without enough funds, the school lacks the teachers and the resources it needs to invest in the education we would all wish to see for our students." According to the consultation document, Sandown Bay Academy has almost halved in size over the past 5 years, with a related drop in income from £12 million in 2011 to £7 million this year. Candidates standing in the general election have been highly critical of AET's actions. Labour's Julian Critchley said, "AET needs to back off, and back off now. There is a general election campaign going on. Yet while we are deciding on the future direction of the country, including education policy, AET is trying to rush ahead with these half-baked plans. It needs to stop this attempt to sneak into proposals through which, It needs to stop this attempt to sneak its proposals through while people are distracted by the general election. The consultation runs until July the 6th, and people can take part by completing a document on the school's website, as well as on the County Press's site at www.iwcp.co.uk. An online questionnaire is available at http://tinyrl.com/N4ZHV5T. Copies of the proposal document and the questionnaire will also be available from the receptions at Sandown Bay and Ryde Academy. Arising out of all the furore which is going on at Sandown Bay Academy is another piece of information which says snap inspection of Bay Academy. A short notice Ofsted inspection of Sandown Bay Academy could help expose the inadequacies of the trust in charge, an Isle of Wight councillor claimed. Inspectors visited the school on Tuesday and Wednesday this week and spoke to staff and students about their experiences. Academy's Enterprise Trust, that's the AET, which runs the school, came under fire for the way it handled the troubled Academy's issues and recently announced a possible merger with Ryde Academy. Councillor Chris Whitehouse, education lead for the Isle of Wight Council, said the inspection could not be more timely. He said, AET have failed to invest the necessary resources in developing Sandown Bay Academy and were desperate to avoid this inspection, which threatened to expose their failings. We have some great staff at the Academy and fantastic pupils, but they won't achieve their best with AET in charge, which is why we want them out and another operator brought in. Following a motion passed unanimously by the Isle of Wight Council last Wednesday, Council leader Councillor Dave Stewart is writing to the Minister for Schools to ask that AET be removed from Sandown Bay Academy and from its other school on the island, which is Ryde Academy.
Slide along for even more fun. With a whole new area, Ride Slide will be a total wipeout this year, based on the television show The New Inflatable Area, featuring TV favourites such as the Boxing Wall, the Stepping Stones, Wrecking Hall and the Orange Balls, will be located close to the beach at Western Gardens on Sunday, July the 16th. This year's Ride Slide will also be bigger and faster than ever at 200 metres long. We've moved the whole slide further down Union Street to the steepest part. It will be much faster than last year, and I can't wait to try it out, said Ryde Councillor Wayne Whittle. Tickets are available online at rideslide.uk, with a limited number available on the day.
Parish hub axing confirmed. Newly elected Bembridge councillors have honoured their pledge to axe the controversial planning application to develop the former parish council chamber building it owns in the High Street. The move, which had been backed by a petition signed by 1,300 people, including Chairman Councillor Marianne Sullivan, comes after £1,785 have been spent on a planning consultant and application fees. The 11 open Bembridge councillors had stood on that anti-development ticket. Just 2, Richard Weaver and Sheila Weedall, who had backed the decision to seek planning permission, were re-elected. They were the only 2 councillors to vote against the withdrawal. Councillor Mike Curtis declared a pecuniary interest because he runs the village fishmongers on the ground floor, but Councillor Weedall claimed another councillor should also have withdrawn during debate, but she refused to name the councillor on legal advice. Councillor Weedall said, "This money has been paid, and I think we should stick with it to give us options for the future." Councillor Weaver said the council should press ahead with the application, which did not have to be implemented in full, but had the potential to create jobs in new office space and relocate public toilets to the village hall and make them accessible to people with disabilities. Nothing positive for the use of this building has been put forward by the new council, he said. But Councillor Sullivan said, if the application was withdrawn, it did not stand in the way of future plans. Fisherman Councillor Tommy Millington said, withdrawal would remove the black cloud hanging over businesses in the building. And Councillor Alastair Steen said, let us put this to bed and remove this cloud. He said planners had in any case indicated they were minded to recommend refusal, citing reasons including the fact the application did not comply with Bembridge's own neighbourhood plan, which had been adopted by the parish council.
Enterprising students reach finals. 2 island teams were winners at the Young Enterprise Regional Finals in Hampshire. Students from Sandown Bay Academy Wight Bright team won the award for Best Presentation, while Ryde Academy's Multiply won the award for Best Trade Stand. Katie Attrill, Managing Director for Multiply, also received the Wessex Enterprising Student Award for the Isle of Wight, sponsored by the Federation of Small Business, winning £250 and a trophy. She said, to compete against other teams from across Hampshire was a brilliant experience in itself, so winning an award was a bonus. Colleagues and teammates, Oliver Bacon said, we have thoroughly enjoyed taking part in the Young Enterprise programme and have learnt skills that we can take forward to the future. We're extremely proud of our business and all that we have achieved. Island students who are taking part in the Young Enterprise Regional Finals are shown in an illustration. All 3 teams that we've talked about have their picture in the paper this week.
Ghost Town blamed on floaty setbacks. The floating bridge fiasco has left East Cowes like a ghost town, a concerned business owner has said. With the service out for 5 months while the new £3.2 million vessel was being prepared, Debbie Groundsell, who runs Cathy's Card and Gift Shop in York Avenue, said the waiting period had had a big impact on business. The new floating bridge broke down and was taken out of service last week. The Isle of Wight Council said it will return very soon. A group of business owners attended a heated East Cowes Town Council meeting last Friday to voice their concerns. Debbie told the county press, "The floating bridge has had a major impact on us. It's like a ghost town. I've noticed a huge decline since it was taken out of service 5 months ago. It's been the worst few months I've had. I'm full of enthusiasm and passion, but it has been a tough few months. I used to get people popping over from Cowes on their way to Waitrose, but even when the service is up and running, I think they will be put off by the increased £1.50 charge for pedestrians." Angela Booth, owner of Value for You in East Cowes, dismissed the council's claim the bridge was experiencing teething trouble. "This isn't teething trouble, this is an unmitigated disaster. Instead of a bespoke bridge, we got a wonky banger that is slower and completely unfit for purpose," she said. The business owners have demanded to see copies of feasibility studies and want an urgent meeting with the Isle of Wight Council, East Cowes Town Council, and members of the public.
Bag a seat, but at a price. Imagine enjoying panoramic views of the Solent while sipping on a cup of coffee and eating a pastry and browsing library of books and newspapers. That's the travelling experience being offered passengers on board Red Funnel's East Cowes to Southampton car ferries, for a fee, naturally. The company has just launched a new club lounge, dubbed the Signature Lounge, which gives travellers the opportunity to have what it calls an exclusive premium travel experience. It is available on both Red Falcon and Red Osprey and can be bought in advance or on board at a cost of £15 per person per crossing. There is an introductory offer of £10 for the first 10 spaces booked per crossing. The new lounge, styled in with a nautical chic theme, has enhanced Wi-Fi, 240-volt sockets and USB charging points available. Passengers who choose to upgrade will have access to a well-stocked library of magazines, newspapers, books, and complimentary premium tea and coffee, cold drinks, and pastries. The new lounge is located on the top passenger deck. Both Red Falcon and Red Osprey are retaining pets areas, while seating in the main lounge will be reconfigured to provide an extra 30 seats overall. Customer Services Director Murray Carter said, "We're excited to be the first cross-Solent ferry operator to launch a club lounge, despite it being a feature on many trains, planes, and ferries around the world. The decision follows extensive customer research, and we've worked hard to provide facilities which customers valued at an affordable price point." In addition, Red Funnel's premium options also include priority booking and disembarkation from £6.50 a car, The minimum age for signature lounge is 12, and pets, with the exception of assistance dogs, are not permitted.
Group aims to put islands on the map. Establishing an all-party parliamentary group for UK islands is the latest pledge from Conservative parliamentary candidate Bob Seeley, should he be elected on June the 8th. Working with Derek Thomas, Conservative candidate for St Ives and the Isles of Scilly, Mr Seeley hopes the proposed group will bring together MPs representing island communities in the UK. One of the key objectives would be to look at transport provision and consider a subsidy model similar to the Scottish Isles. There would also be a focus on the heightened cost of providing public services in island communities. Mr Seeley said, "Even though there are all-party parliamentary groups for the Channel Islands, the Isle of Man and a range of island-based countries around the world, there is no similar provision for islands within the UK's own waters. This has to change. We need to give UK island communities a collective voice in Parliament, and establishing this group will be the first step to doing that. We need a better deal for the island. I hope this group will be an important step towards achieving that aim." Mr Seeley would aim to establish the group a week after being elected and welcomes feedback about that issue the group should focus on.
Row over free school lunches. 3,000 island children will lose out on free school lunches if the Conservatives are successful at the general election, according to the Isle of Wight Liberal Democrats. Free school lunches for pupils from reception to Year 2 were introduced during the coalition, but the scheme could be under threat, according to the Lib Dems. Parliamentary candidate Nick Belfit said, "This Conservative manifesto shows the nasty party is back. Bob Seeley must now come clean over whether he will vote to take away free lunches from the children of hard-pressed families. We will stand up to the Theresa May's cold, mean-spirited Britain, protecting those who need the most help and fighting for more funding for our schools and hospitals." Mr Seeley welcomed the Tory policy, however, which pledged to give free breakfast to all primary school children. He said providing a decent breakfast will help primary-aged children on the island to make progress in school. Importantly, the Conservatives have also confirmed their commitment to continue providing free school lunches to children from low-income families throughout their years in primary and secondary education.
Just quickly following on from that then, we learn about pupils' mature questions, bus fares, the fixed link, and what it is like being a candidate were just some of the questions Labour candidate Julian Critchley faced from the discerning audience of primary school children at Love Lane Primary School in Cowes on Tuesday. Mr Critchley was impressed by the children's maturity and said the questions they asked were very impressive and the children were a credit to their teachers. Work to be done on main route at night. One of the main routes into Newport is set to be improved by Island Roads at night. Blackwater Road between Blackwater Hollow and a point 250 metres south of Shide Road will be resurfaced in a scheme scheduled to begin on June the 16th and last 9 weekday nights between 7:30 p.m. and 6 a.m. The project will mean the whole section of Main Road between St George's Roundabout, Newport, and the Fighting Cocks car park at Arreton, a stretch of around 5.5 miles, will have been resurfaced by Island Roads under the Highways PFI. The company said pedestrian access would be maintained where possible during work, but there would be a traffic diversion in place during work times via St George's Way, Staplers Road, Long Lane and Down End Road. Residents and businesses on the section to be improved will be contacted regarding the scheme. Island Roads project manager Derek Benfield said, "The work on this section will further enhance the main road from Newport through Arreton and towards Lake."
Amy heads cuts battle. An island woman has become the face of a national campaign against education cuts. Amy Johnson, who grew up and went to school in Carisbrooke, is now on Vote for Education posters going up across London. The Vote for Education campaign is so important to make sure improvement in funding for education is top of the agenda for politicians and those voting, said Amy, who teaches design and technology at Bow School in London. Run by the NUT, the Vote for Education campaign claims the government has cut school funding by $2.2 billion since 2015 and plans to cut $3 billion more by 2020, which would affect 99% of schools. I am an active member of the National Union of Teachers, she added. I recently became president of East London Teachers Association and spoke for the second time at the national conference this year. I am passionate about education. Amy moved away from the island 13 years ago and has been a teacher for 7 years. She said, "I still come back regularly to see family and friends and hope to move back one day to contribute to island education."
Dinosaur footprint find unprecedented. Dinosaur experts have discovered a completely unprecedented footprint. The footprint, which has been preserved on another dinosaur bone, is believed to be the first of its kind. The discovery will be going on display at the Dinosaur Expedition Centre near Bryston tomorrow, which is Saturday. It was found by paleontologist and director of the centre, Oliver Matson, in October 2015 on Brook Beach. While dinosaur footprints are well known on the Isle of Wight, to date no complete dinosaur footprints have been found on dinosaur bones because most bones are too small to preserve the large footprints. When Oliver discovered the large brachiosaur dinosaur vertebrae, it was taken to the centre and cleaned by volunteers. But it was one of the museum's volunteers, Ashley Siebert, who noticed the distinctive pattern of a dinosaur footprint on the surface of the bone. When Ashley told me there was a dinosaur footprint on the surface, I thought he was joking. There was obvious crush damage on the surface, but this is quite normal for dinosaur bones. However, it was only when he pointed out the distinctive three-toed pattern I realised he was being serious, said Oliver. In nearly 25 years of collecting dinosaur bones, I have never heard of a complete dinosaur footprint preserved on a dinosaur bone before. It is completely unprecedented, he added. When the vertebrae was found, it was incomplete. But last month, Michael Wall, a local fossil collector, told Oliver he thought he had found the missing pieces on the same beach. After he discovered the pieces were part of the brachiosaur vertebrae, Michael offered the pieces to the museum so it could be completed. The brachiosaur vertebrae was probably lying in a shallow layer of soft mud when a small meat-eating dinosaur walked on top of it, crushing the surface of the bone in the shape of its foot.
And that apparently is all we have time for this morning. So it's goodbye from Joan.
And it's bye-bye from Mike. Bye-bye, everyone.
Good morning, everyone. This is the County Press for the 26th of May, and it's Barry
and Pauline.
And I kick off with a letter from A. Blackburn of Cowes. So the Isle of Wight Council is stumping up £2 million towards the cost of the new call centre in Cowes, when they can find money for essential services. I wonder what the return to taxpayers will be if it goes ahead, assuming a census makes a profit, of course. If, as reported, the Isle of Wight Council values this at £35 million for the local economy, why does a census need our money? Like a lot of things, is this too good to be true? And where do 600 people come from to fill the vacancies? I also suppose it will be operating long hours, and with that many people generating quite a lot of traffic. It seems Mr. Stewart will do all he can to get the deal done.
Cash point shortage is a disgrace. This is a letter from Kay Colebrook of Cowes. I was in Cowes High Street recently and a man asked where could he get some cash, as there were no banks, no post office and no cash machine working. What an absolute disgrace. For many, many years we on the Isle of Wight have enjoyed Cowes Week, as have the thousands of visitors. It brings in vast amounts of money to the Isle of Wight, but make no mistake about it, Cowes Week will cease if this continues. There are many influential people just waiting to take prestige yachting elsewhere, but then the powers that be don't care. It doesn't affect them.
And from Mr. B. Green of Freshwater, the Tories have been in power for 7 years and have dogmatically followed their policy of austerity. Regardless of the statistics they produce, their results have been a manifest failure. There are crises in the health and GP services, the care sector, education, the police force, the prison service, the armed forces and housing. There are quite inadequate staffing levels, serious problems with recruitment and retention, overcrowding in many areas with staff stress and morale at an all-time low. This is the antithesis of being strong and stable, and the inability to acknowledge these issues highlights the inadequacy of the Conservatives' philosophy.
A letter from Bob Seeley of Newport. The highly political letter from Dr. Ian McLennan about the NHS struck a chord with Islanders, but perhaps not in a way that the author intended. Islanders don't want politicians using the NHS as a political football. People, regardless of their political affiliation, want ideology and dogma taken out of decision-making. The NHS should have a set of core principles, free at the point of use, available to those who need it, regardless of cost. On the island, we need to keep as many services here as possible. We also need to make sure, on principle, people are treated as close to their homes as possible, which we know improves recovery rates. Reform of the NHS and its structures should be based on what works. Any change needs to be evidence-based. That means listening to those people who work in the NHS, doctors and nurses, etc., to enable them to fulfil their roles to the best of their ability. Let's keep party politics out of the NHS.
And from D. Groves of God's Hill. I was in St Mary's Hospital a few months ago for 8 days and on several wards including A&E. I want to thank the consultants, nurses and domestics who looked after me. I was treated and cared for with respect and kindness. And from Bridget Lewis, Ryde, Fast Reaction. I would like to say a huge thank you to Island Roads. My husband took a nasty tumble while running last week when he caught his toe on a rut, caused by missing tarmac outside Ryde Inshore Rescue Headquarters. He wrote to Island Roads to ask them to attend to it, posting the letter on Tuesday. We happened to pass that way on Thursday evening, and we were amazed to find Island Roads had already mended the rut.
And another letter of thanks, this one from Helen Maddox of Binstead. I would like to thank the emergency services on behalf of my mum and my family. On Sunday, April the 30th, my mum had a really nasty fall while rambling over Motterston Down. She sustained a complex spiral fracture at the arm and cuts and bruises. The weather was horrendous, and because of the location of the accident, the paramedics were unable to transport her back to their vehicle some 15 minutes walk away. The paramedics were amazing, treating the pain immediately and comforting her, while the Coast Guard helicopter assisted with her transfer to St Mary's, where she received excellent treatment in A&E. She's now receiving rehabilitation at Highfield Nursing Home from the Community Rehabilitation Team led by Sister Elaine Greer, and again is receiving brilliant attention from all the NHS team and the staff at Highfield. Huge thanks to all the teams involved and the remaining ramblers who stood as a human shield against the elements while she was waiting for the helicopter.
And from Oscar Bickett of Cowes, like many on the island, I am concerned about environmental issues and the lack of urgency of which climate change is being addressed at Westminster. It is clear that as a society we are going to have to change. However, much of the change called for by the Green Party has in fact little to do with the environment and more to do with a hard left agenda. Looking through the Green Party website, there are many such policies. For instance, on the issue of defence, they call for the total dismantlement of our weapons system and dramatically reducing military personnel, calling a strong military deterrent beyond sanity. As well as putting our country in danger, this will affect jobs both on the island and in Portsmouth. They also suggest joining terrorist organisations aimed at killing British citizens should not be a criminal offence. The party also stands on abolishing the monarchy, one of the strongest symbols of who we are as a nation. On issues of justice, it suggests women should not go to prison except in cases of violence, breaking the idea of equality under the law. Most recently, they have suggested a 3-day weekend seriously affecting small business owners. If these policies were from any other party, they would be thoroughly discredited. However, I fear the smokescreen of environmental issues in the eyes of the public is hiding a disastrous set of policies for our country.
A letter from Paul Anoka of Bembridge, coastal question. I have some sympathy with Peter Bishop and his views on horses, but of greater concern is the change in status of the island coastal path. I always thought this was designed for the enjoyment of walkers and a safe route for cyclists, but now the path between Bembridge Harbour and Swains Road has been designated as a public bridleway. On the very narrow section between the end of Love Lane and Swains Road, a few months ago, I and other walkers were forced onto the bank with dogs to make way for a line of 16 horses. I wonder if there are any national guidelines for how coastal paths should be used?
And from Nick Wilde of Freshwater, talking about death can be a positive experience, as many of those who have been to the Death Cafe at God's Providence House can testify. I know Death Chat at the Earl Mountbatten Hospice John Cheverton Centre has been running for a much longer time, but there is a place for both, since one is weekly in the early evening and the other monthly during the day. I have been facilitating the one in Newport since February and would welcome all who would like to drop in. The next 2 meetings are on Wednesdays, June the 14th and July the 12th from 2:30 to 4 p.m. If you have any queries, call 759 024.
And this is from Peter Shreve, Isle of Wight Branch Secretary, Association of Teachers and Lecturers, Carisbrooke. This is an open letter to all candidates in the forthcoming general election. Our post-Brexit future depends on children and young people learning a broad range of subjects taught by sufficiently qualified staff in well-resourced schools with sufficient places, tested in a meaningful way. We're therefore reminding prospective island candidates of the present situation and openly focus on the 5 main challenges in education. 1. Under current policy, Isle of Wight schools are facing cuts of more than £6.5 million a year from 2020. How will your party ensure local schools have the funding they need? 2. 1 in 10 teachers left the profession in 2015, and the 2016-17 target for new secondary teachers was missed by 11%. What will your party do to ensure all schools can recruit and retain the staff they need? 3. This year there has been a 5% fall in island students getting their first choice school compared to 2016, and 2% of families did not get any of their chosen schools. How will you and your party ensure all children can go to a good school near where they live? 4. School leaders report high stakes testing is putting children under enormous pressure, while staff struggle with stress caused by workload. How will you address the mental health crisis facing children, young people and education professionals? And finally, number 5, adult learning has been cut nationally by 35% since 2009. There are now over 2 million fewer adult learners in the sector. How will you ensure today's young island adults have the skills they need for tomorrow's workplace? We're hopeful any future Island MP will robustly champion and influence improvements within island education.
And from Brian Greening in Newport, headed Question in Lieu, LOO, I considered obtaining a ticket to go to the hustings at Cowes, but first deliberated that probably as I would only be able to ask one question, what would it be? Should I remind the Conservative candidate that before the last election the Tories promised to raise the level for care home support to around £72,000, but within 48 hours they had deferred it until 2020. One manifesto promise broken in less time than George Osborne can accept another job. Now Theresa May has promised to raise it to £100,000, but declines to say how long we will have to wait, and as yet has not published the small print and caveats, essential reading with any political promise. Should I ask the candidates how they would vote given a free choice to support the reintroduction of fox hunting, or what were their views on maintaining the obscenity of 0 hours contracts that debar any applicant so handicapped from obtaining a mortgage? Maybe I should ask what were their views on the proposed removal of the winter fuel allowance. However, my mind was made up when in town I wanted to use the public convenience opposite the Iceland shop, only to find it locked. With eyes watering and an aching groin, I managed to just make it to the none too hygienic building in Post Office Lane. Inquiries led me to believe that the closed building has been out of operation since April the 1st, and has been delayed because £60,000 is needed to undertake drainage work, the responsibility of our new, all-powerful Conservative council. So that will be my question. Will the candidates bring pressure on this body to act immediately and effect these repairs? The island's capital having just one operating public convenience is a disgrace. Years ago, when our ancestors used the alcoves of St Thomas's Church as urinals, and worse, the authorities were compelled to surround it with railings. If things do not soon change, Hurst might soon be receiving an order for such an item.
And now we have a message from the police. Commissioner Michael Lane will be asking Chief Constable Olivia Pinkney what her strategy is for addressing the issues that need police attention. Anyone wishing to attend or submit a question should contact by phone 01962 871 595 and ask for Richard Martin. The meeting will be held on Saturday 24th of June in Newport. The deadline to register attendance or questions is 14th of June 2017. I'll just read that number again, 01962 871 595.
And from Mrs Barclay of Ryde, lest we forget, Sandown Bay Academy, previously a high school, was once a good and successful school. Before the island education system transitioned from 3 to 2 tier in 2008, the school was regularly rated a good and improving school. oversubscribed and popular with pupils and parents alike. Steve Bainan, then head of the Isle of Wight Council, argued that in order to secure, quote, a world-class education for island pupils, schools needed to become academies, and began the move from local authority control to academy trusts. Head teachers and many experienced island teachers were deemed inadequate and let go or persuaded to leave, replaced by superheads and teachers recruited from the mainland. So have we got the world-class education we were first promised? Far from it. Since transition results have fallen dramatically, superheads have come and gone with amazing regularity, and confidence in management, recruitment and retention and staff morale has plummeted. AET, the Academy Trust appointed to raise standards and achievement for island children, has been a miserable failure. Educational terrorists, they have successfully dismantled a perfectly decent school and continue to do so, fully supported, it would seem, by our current government. Those of us who had the good fortune to work and study at the school prior to 2008 are saddened to witness its proposed demise in such a brutal and unjustified manner.
And looking back 100 years ago, May the 26th, 1917, a warning was issued to island bakers by the Ministry of Food about the ingredients used in their loaves. They were told the practices of using more than the imported amount of standard flour instead of miller's flour would not be tolerated, and the excuse of not being able to get hold of miller's flour would not be accepted. Suppliers of the correct flour were improving daily, and bakers were advised to look further afield if they had trouble obtaining ingredients. Also, in that year, efforts were being made by the Sugar Commission to provide sugar to private fruit growers. Despite shortages, the Sugar Commission was taking applications from island fruit growers who wished to preserve fruit on their own premises. Such growers who wished to obtain sugar for jam making were required to immediately apply in writing or risk missing out.
And 75 years ago, May the 30th, 1942, a German raider was shot down at Javaland by Spitfires during an afternoon hit and run. Taking advantage of the low cloud, the raider came in from the sea with the apparent objective of attacking a ship. A short dogfight between the raider and several Spitfires ended with the German pilot bailing out of his machine, which fell in flames into a turnip field. The pilot, who was adorned with an iron cross, landed near Yaverland Church and was immediately taken prisoner. Mere months after a government campaign to curb local rabbit populations with the use of Simag gas, the island was experiencing a bunny boom, with 3 new rabbit clubs springing up at Bembridge, Brystone and Chale on top of an existing 9 clubs. It seemed islanders were responding to the government's U-turn and subsequent appeal for more breeding of rabbits.
50 years ago, May 26, 1967, some 25 members and friends of the Unidentified Flying Object Society met for their annual dinner at the Wheatsheaf, Newport. The guests of honour were Dr. Geoffrey Dole and his wife. Dr. Dole, chairman of the British UFO Research Association, outlined the current work of his organisation with emphasis on the newly acquired Mobile Investigation Unit, specifically equipped with such items as Geiger counters, UFO detectors, telescopes and radios. And that year, the first ever Labour Mayor of Newport was elected at the town's Guildhall. Alderman J.R. Powell was an Irish soldier who came to the island at 16. Mr. L. Say, who seconded his selection, said he must be one of the most popular figures in Newport, a real man of the people. This popularity was not cheaply won or easily, but by his tireless energy over the years for the people of the town. He was a socialist when to be a socialist was to be a pariah, as it still was in some backwater areas. His invincible determination to fight what he believed in to be right had won him respect and affection from all sides.
25 years ago, May the 29th, 1992, firms were lining up to look at Cowes student Mark Stewart's award-winning Beam music machine. Only a month earlier, Mark, aged 17, had won the final of the Young Electronic Designer of the Award at the Science Museum, London. Since then, 8 companies had expressed an interest in producing it commercially, with an expected price tag of £200, £379 in today's money. The invention, which was designed to help disabled children, allowed musical sounds to be activated by breaking a beam of light and could be adapted to control a mouse cursor on a computer screen.
10 years ago, May the 25th, 2007, hundreds of tons of rock crashed into the beach at Wight Bay in the biggest landslide for more than 5 years. Wight Bay was made a no-go area to the public by coastguards after a massive chunk of cliff plummeted to the foot of the Culver headland. Eyewitness Zoe Barker said the top half of the cliff started to peel away in a vast triangular chunk. It was an extraordinary and surreal sight and seemed to happen in slow motion. The chunk appeared to hover, with a crack of blue sky growing between it and the main cliff. Then it fell, shattering into thousands of pieces at the bottom with an incredible roar.
Also 10 years ago, youngsters at Gurnard Primary School took their centenary celebrations to a new height. Their excitement took off when a helicopter from Cabair Heliphotos touched down on the school field, having taken a series of aerial photographs of the school and the children, who formed a giant number 100 on the ground.
Now we have Wight memories. Church bells date from 1200s. Away from the hustle and bustle of Yarmouth sits the peaceful village of Thorley, and standing at its heart lies the church of St Swithin. There's been a church at Thorley since the 13th century, although the current building dates from Victorian times. The original St Swithin's church would have been a chapel to the manor house of Thorley, built around 1270 by Amicia de Redvers, the Countess of Devon. Although it was restored and rebuilt over the centuries, it eventually fell into disrepair and was demolished in the 19th century. A new church was commissioned, this one closer to the heart of the village. Of the old church, only the south porch and part of the bell cot, restored in 1909, remains, along with the old churchyard that holds many ancient tombs. The new church was built in the late 19th century in a cruciform shape, consisting of a chancel, nave, north and south transepts, vestry and a central bell tower that houses the two medieval bells that were removed from the original church. Because of their age, these two bells are considered extremely important in the study of bells. Engravings thought to date them as being cast in the early 13th century. The bells still ring and best be seen from the outside through the open tower.
Inside St Swithin's, the walls are of cream and red brickwork, so popular with the Victorians and styled to a medieval design and a welcoming warmth and light to the church. This, coupled with the light wooden pews with comfortable cushions and the deeper wooden vaulted ceilings, must make worshippers feel at peace within. Of the numerous tablets and memorials that decorate most Victorian churches, a couple stand out. One, facing the nave, is dedicated to the Reverend Edmund Marshall, who was vicar of Thorley for 33 years, 1909 to 1942. He was also the last resident vicar of the parish. Another tablet enigmatically states simply, Richard Lawrence Edward Ford, paleontologist, grandson of Edward Ford. One of the most touching memorials is for the 12 men of Thorley who died in the First World War. Their names are listed on the war memorial in the churchyard, and a beautiful picture postcard has been created in their memory, showing the type of work and houses they would have left in order to join the war. Considering the size of Thorley, it would have been a considerable blow to lose so many young men in such a small village. Above the main door is a royal coat of arms for King Edward VII. During the Reformation, coats of arms were frequently displayed, but it is unusual to find such a recent one. This one dates from March the 9th, 1909, and was given by Captain R. W. Scott Rogers, who also has memorial slabs dedicated to himself and his wife. The date coincides with the induction of the Reverend Marshall. Aside from the bells, other items from the original churches are the Jacobean altar table, situated within the vestry, the unusual stone font and the pulpit, which was made from wood removed from the former church. Outside, too, the walls of the churchyard have been built partially from stones taken from the original St Swithin's. The peaceful resting place is festooned with flowers and is a fitting tribute to those who have lived and worked in the village. St Swithin's obviously still plays a large part in this village community and is well looked after. Tucked away from the rush of modern life, it is not just a haven of peace and tranquillity for worshippers. It is well worth a visit, and in the latest of her series of studies of island churches, Donna Newnham visits a haven of West Wight peace. Donna has now been to 45 of the island's 65 Anglican churches, but will have to make special arrangements to get access to many of the remaining, which remain locked for much of the time. As a result of recording both the histories of the buildings and the people associated with them, she has found herself in demand as a speaker and is hoping to bring the tales together in a book.
Now we have My View, and this is by Malcolm Mime. Fake news, beware of fake pledges. There is much talk these days about fake news, but in this election season I have decided to write instead about fake pledges. Why is it that politicians make such outrageous pledges? And more to the point, why is it that although we voters recognise the pledges to be outrageous, we still vote for those making them? When the local Conservative Party, under the leadership of Dave Leave Us Alone Pugh, made that wild pledge back in 2009 they would get the Isle of Wight schools into the national top 10, the disastrous failure of the pledge cost the Tories control of County Hall and brought to an end Pugh's political career. When David Cameron's ridiculous pledge to reduce Britain's net immigration to 10,000 a year failed drastically, he too paid for his false pledge with his job. You would think history would teach lessons to both politicians and voters alike, and yet in the lead up to the local council elections of earlier this month, the Conservative Party, now led by Dave Not Barbara Stewart, pledged to get 25% of island schools to an Ofsted level of outstanding by 2021. While nationally, Theresa May has chosen to make exactly the same pledge as Cameron to reduce net immigration to tens of thousands. We islanders have chosen to believe Mr Stewart's pledge, and if the opinion poll's accurate, then it looks like the nation will be backing Theresa on June the 8th. Do none of us learn? There are also those politicians who make outrageous pledges without ever thinking they will ever be in any sort of position of authority to actually have to deliver, but this too can backfire.
The best example is the infamous pledge made by the former Liberal Democratic leader Nick Clegg, who told us that if he were in power, he would abolish student university fees. When Clegg made that pledge, he could never for one moment have imagined he would actually end up in a position of Deputy Prime Minister and be expected to deliver. So it was a very clever vote-winning pledge, except when Clegg did end up in the position of Deputy PM. And when he did fail to deliver, his party ended up paying a very heavy price, losing 49 of its 57 MPs at the 2015 general election. One would think, having seen the drastic failure of Clegg's fake pledge, nobody would ever suggest scrapping university fees ever again. But as pledges go, it is a proven vote winner. So that is exactly what the Labour Party and its leader Jeremy Corbyn are now promising. Probably the biggest fake pledge of them all was the Brexiteers' bus pledge to fund the NHS with £350 million a week. Millions of people bought into this, and other pledges made by Farage and co. And yet Farage was neither a government minister when the pledge was made, nor in fact even an MP. I have so far mentioned outrageous pledges made by the Conservatives, Labour, the Lib Dems and UKIP. So as there is a general election coming up, it is only right that I balance things up by mentioning an outrageous pledge made by the Green Party. The Green Party much want to change the whole system, with one of their pledges being to abolish the monarchy. But as this is an election to form Her Majesty's government, they would appear to be appealing to the wrong people. Surely a revolution would be more up their street. One person who doesn't seem to have grasped the whole purpose of the fake pledge is Nick Clegg's successor as Lib Dem leader Tim Farron's, who is pledging to put up income tax. Poor Tim needs to realise that honesty doesn't win voters and has no place in politics.
Now we have an article by Rebecca Roncoroni. I stood up to be counting and was. You may or may not have noticed that my column went missing last month. The reason was simple. I had decided to stop simply being a keyboard warrior and enter the fray of local politics and stand as a local councillor. Having become increasingly disenchanted with big party politics, I decided the only authentic way I could stand was to be an independent. Standing as a local councillor for Wootton Bridge meant taking on the incumbent, the island UKIP leader, and a Conservative old boy who lived in the village. There was a Labour and Lib Dem too. The game was certainly on. In the 2013 local government elections in Wootton Bridge, UKIP got 600 plus, Conservatives 400 plus, Labour 100-ish, and the Independents 98 votes. I don't know why I took the decision to fight for it. I think it was the culmination of many things, not least feeling that affirmative action, giving it a proper go, had to be better than keyboard campaigning into echo chambers. I decided to stand up and be counted. I knocked on more than 1,400 doors and had hundreds of conversations with people. I campaigned on social media, in print and on local radio. The past 6 weeks were devoted to the election. I didn't eat proper food. My vegetables rotted in the basket. My fridge was empty, laundry overflowing. My bed desperately needed changing. I didn't go out socially. My friends were neglected, likewise my family. My feet were killing me, ditto ankles, knees, thighs and hips.
I was in bed most nights by 9:30am. I couldn't help my son move from Bristol to Wales. I couldn't think about anything else. The election invaded my dreams. Naked canvassing is a nightmare I hope never to have again. Exchanges like this were straight out of a sitcom. Elderly lady looking at leaflet with pursed lips. When was that photo taken? Last year, says I. Oh dear, she says. Whatever you've been doing since then is doing you no good at all, my love. Give it all up, love. Give it up now. She then said pityingly, I'll vote for you, love. Me? Thanks. Then there was the chap, a big prop forward of a man, who shouted, Independent? But are you left wing or right wing? I tend to veer towards the left, I stuttered. Wrong. Without the right wing you can't fly, he stormed, before slamming the door. I stood there thinking, but if you just had the right wing, you'd go round and round in circles. I learnt so much, I have to relearn that most people, the huge majority, are kind, polite and well-meaning. My faith in community has been restored. I have made new friends and had fascinating conversations with people I would never have met. I've learnt bits about my family history. One elderly lady recounted that when she was aged 12, she was hiding in my great-grandmother's pigsty in East Cowes when the bombs fell. I have had a renewed sense of purpose after feeling obsolete with an empty nest and a nursing career behind me, and being a woman of certain age. It's been consuming, challenging fun, disturbing at times, exhausting and exhilarating. Election day was a marathon. At the polling station from just after 7am to 10pm at night, then on to the count at Medina. Eventually at 3am my count was called and all the candidates stood and watched 4 people, plus a supervisor. 5 piles slowly grew, 1 for each candidate, and the result? I came third, after the Conservative and the UKIP candidate. Never mind, next time. I stood up to be counted, and it turned out the number was 224.
Now we're looking at behind the news, some people, and this is no business like monkey business. The Monkey Haven is a success story for the island's tourist industry, but founder Don Walser, an unassuming cabinet maker from the Midlands, overcame great adversity to open the attraction. The Monkey Haven started life in a back garden in Northamptonshire, where Don used to keep barn owls. He was involved in a breed and release programme in the 1970s when barn owl numbers were under extreme threat. During this time, he bred and released 56 birds into the wild and became known in the surrounding villages for his work. People started bringing in all sorts of birds, and one day Don received a call from someone asking if he could look after their 4 monkeys. I thought they were fascinating, Don said. Fortunately, his wife Joan and his children Kelly and Anthony were fully behind him. He built 2 enclosures with heating and electrics in the garden, taking advice from London Zoo, who told him about the horrors of the exotic pet trade for monkeys. One of the monkeys turned out to be pregnant, and as nature took its course, he ended up with 9 monkeys and 14 birds of prey in his garden. This was burning a hole in Don's pocket. Working as a joiner, building bespoke cabinets, he would come home at lunchtime and prepare a meal for the monkeys and feed the birds dead chicks. On top of that were the heating bills. Also, my work was drying up, Don said. People had started buying flat-pack furniture, and there were fewer people wanting to pay for bespoke stuff. So I thought, if I'm going to keep these animals, I want to do it right. During a winter holiday to the Isle of Wight in 1996, Don had his light bulb moment. He would set up an annual animal sanctuary that would fund itself through admission fees.
He visited Yafford Mill, a working farm in the West Wight, which had vintage machinery, rare cattle, ducks, geese, and importantly a seal, which meant it had a zoo licence. Don made them an offer. He said that for a percentage of the gate money he would repair their old machinery, bring in his animals and get their watermill working again. The collection of animals was growing, but 2 years later the farm was sold and Don and his animals had to move. Don's family went to see anything that was on the market with spacious grounds, and an estate agent took them to 5 Acres Farm, a bungalow with land on the outskirts of Newport that used to be a chicken farm. They contacted the Isle of Wight Council to find out how it would feel about a monkey sanctuary being built. The council said it would be pleased to see anything that could bring in tourism. So Don and his family bought the place and headed back to the council to discuss their plans. However, while they were closing the deal on the land, a different planning officer had taken over, one who didn't look so favourably on the plans. This triggered a planning war that lasted for 4 years and included a large group from the council taking a trip to Marwell Zoo to find out how noisy the monkeys were. The monkeys walked around, scratching various parts of their anatomy, and didn't make a sound. Eventually the family's plans were granted on appeal. Everything at the Monkey Haven, even as it stands today, was built by Don and Anthony. Don was taking on monkeys from rescue organisations, particularly ex-pet monkeys. I knew there was a need for a sanctuary like this, Don said, but I never envisaged how great the need was. One of the Marquettes came from a pub in Belgium where he was chained up at the bar smoking cigarettes that patrons gave him. He became addicted to nicotine and had to be weaned off by AAP, a rescue centre in the Netherlands, before he was taken to Monkey Haven. Another Marquette was rescued after she was found in a shipping container with nothing in it but a light bulb that was never switched off. In recovery, the monkey was scared of the dark. 3 of Monkey Haven's cotton-top tamarins came from a house in France. One of the squirrel monkeys was rescued from Spain, where it was made by its owner to wear a dress. Seeing animals like these that have come from awful conditions and are now living in decent enclosures and are getting on well with their new troops is really rewarding. Don said, "My keepers are really passionate about what they do and they know the animals so well." However, it was not all plain sailing. Buried in financial debt, the venture came close to collapse, having been open to the public for less than a year. But salvation came when Monkey Haven was granted a charity status in 2013. Since then, things have been going very well for Monkey Haven, culminating in the Visit England Awards for this year, where they picked up the award for Best Small Visitor Attraction in England. "I was more or less speechless," said Don. "I've got to thank all of our visitors, because without them it would not have been possible. And, of course, our staff. They are amazing."
And now we'll look at what's on the island. We have 1930s jazz supper with the gramophone party. This is going to be at Key Arts on Friday the 23rd of June at 7:30 p.m. £10 ticket, or if you want food with it, that will cost you £20. And to get tickets, you can call 01983 822 490.
And the Newport Isle of Wight Jazz Weekend, Friday 2nd of June, Saturday the 3rd of June, Sunday the 4th of June, at Little London Quay, Newport. You can phone in regard to tickets 01983 525 828.
The Isle of Wight Bus and Coach Museum. Now this will be open on Sunday the 28th of May and Sunday the 4th of June. Then it'll be open on Wednesdays, Thursdays, Sundays and bank holidays. Free entry, 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. And this is at the Bus Depot, Park Road, Ryde. If you want any more information, ring 01983 567796.
And it's showtime for Scarecrows. The award-winning Chillerton and Gatcombe Scarecrow Festival is back this week for its 5th year. Organised by the local parish, the festival was awarded a Gold Tourism Award in 2010. The festival runs from tomorrow, Saturday, until next Sunday, June the 4th. But this weekend things will really be in full flow, with judging and live music at 3 p.m. tomorrow.
Now we have pop-up opera returning to the Isle of Wight. As an opera, it is not the best known, but the company performing it is Pop-up opera have been popular visitors to the Garlic Farm in recent years, and this year they bring Cimarosa's Il Matrimonio Segreto, The Secret Marriage, to the venue. It was first performed in 1792 and became one of the most successful comic operas of its day, and ideal for resurrection by the pop-up cast who specialise in breathing new life into old operas. They bring it to Newchurch next Friday and Saturday, June the 2nd and 3rd, and you can book by calling 01983 865 378.
And at the Shanklin Theatre, among other things, there's Jimmy Osmond of the Osmond family, Moon River and Me. There's booking now on sale today at 10 a.m. for as far ahead as the 11th of March 2018.
And of course we have the Isle of Wight Festival, 2017 Festival. That's on from the 8th to the 11th of June, 4 headliners over 3 nights. The only one I know is Rod Stewart on the Sunday, so that's coming along shortly. And we also have a Moët Champagne Bar, Octopus Garden, the Kingfisher Beer Truck. I think that's at the festival as well. And now we'll read you a few more articles. So, beware, rogue traders about. Police have warned islanders against rogue traders trying to sell machinery from vans. Police community support officers, these are PCSOs, said they had received reports of 2 Ford Transit vans and a maroon Mitsubishi Shogun driving around the Isle of Wight. Their occupants are trying to sell items of machinery, including generators. Police said, "We work closely with Isle of Wight trading standards, and we would like to remind all residents on the island to be aware of purchasing items from the backs of vehicles from strangers. Anyone with concerns should contact the police on 101 or trading standards."
And general election information regarding school lunches. 3,000 island children will lose out on free school lunches if the Conservatives are successful, according to the Isle of Wight Liberal Democrats. Free school lunches for pupils from reception to Year 2 were introduced during the coalition, but the scheme could be under threat, according to the Lib Dems. Parliamentary candidate Nick Belford said this Conservative manifesto shows the nasty party is back. Bob Seeley must now come clean over whether he will vote to take away free lunches from the children of hard-working families, hard-pressed families. We will stand up to Theresa May's cold, mean-spirited Britain, protecting those who need the most help and fighting for more funding for our schools and hospitals. Mr. Seeley welcomed the Tory policy, however, which pledged to give free breakfast to all primary school children. He said providing a decent breakfast will help primary-aged children. And I'm wishing you all a very nice, enjoyable weekend, and I hope the sunny weather continues. It's cheerio from Barry.
And it's cheerio from Pauline.
Good morning, this is Chris.
And Brian.
And we're reading the summer edition of the Society's newsletter. The Isle of Wight Society for the Blind, Millbrook House, 137 Carisbrook Road, Newport, Isle of Wight, PO 301DD. The telephone number is 01983 522 205. The summer edition of the Society's newsletter has inside a message from the chairman, introducing the new CEO, volunteers news round, news from Dress for Less, articles from our roving reporter, and dates for your diary.
Message from the chairman, Paul Rutherford. Lambs have frolicked and Easter eggs eaten. Roll on summer. Firstly, I would like to welcome our new CEO, Miriam Tong, to IWSB. The directors, and especially the HR committee, spent many hours vetting information from applicants and interviewed a total of 5 over a 7-hour period. With Miriam's competence, ability and experience, we feel an excellent choice was made. Personally, I'm looking forward to working closely with her over the next 12 months. After the AGM, there has been a lot of discussion between the trustees, who were generally upset and surprised by some of the comments directed to the board and staff from certain individuals. I can only reiterate that all board members are also volunteers and all try to do their best for the Society. We all dedicate many hours to ensure that our clients' needs are met. Our new CEO, Miriam, certainly took note of these comments, and, with this in mind, Ruth Hollingshead, trustee and volunteer, is now striving to make a success of the recently formed IWSB Users Forum. Hopefully, this will help to alleviate some of our clients' concerns.
Introducing the new CEO, Miriam Tong. Having joined Isle of Wight Society for the Blind as Chief Executive Officer on the 3rd of April, I am delighted to say that, with the warm welcome and support from the team of staff, trustees and award-winning volunteers, I feel that I am settling well into my new role and enjoying meeting IWSB clients and learning more about your views and expectations of what we could or should be doing in the future. So what will I bring to the Society? Well, as a proven general manager within the charitable sector, the role of CEO affords the opportunities and challenges that will fully use my broad range of skills and experience of effective charity governance. It is very much my mission to ensure that the services we offer remain both valuable to clients and valued by supporters and stakeholders, and that we steadily broaden and strengthen our position to better serve our clients and the wider community. Presently, I am still very much on a learning curve. I'm getting to learn more about the needs of our clients, who currently number around 800 local people, and our 80 volunteers who support various society activities. I'm also rapidly learning more about the history, governance and administration of the Society, and meeting colleagues from various local organisations with whom we have links to further our wider aims and objectives. An important initiative I'm currently actively working on is the planned IWSB client consultation exercise. Through a variety of means, we plan to survey our current clients with visual impairment and also aim to reach out to potential clients, islanders who experience dual sensory loss and those more recently diagnosed with sight loss, an estimated further 800 people of all ages. More details about this will follow in the Society announcements. On completion of the exercise, the Society will have gathered much valuable information to guide us in our future plans and strategic direction, and I will have had the pleasure of getting to know many more of you, our clients, volunteers and colleagues. I trust that we will forge positive relationships and move forward together for the benefit of all our clients and potential clients. Miriam Tong, Chief Executive, IWSB.
Trustees Corner, John Moore. I retired from my job in engineering in 2010. The following year, I passed the PCV driving licence, which enabled me to drive the island's community buses, which I did for 3 years. I also undertook voluntary work with the police, which I still do. In 2014, I was asked to pressure wash the large patio at Millbrook House, which is used by clients in the summer. This progressed to helping Alan tidy the gardens. I then became a voluntary driver escort of the Society's minibus, transporting clients to group events like the Dolphins, Owls and the Knit and Nattering clubs. In 2015, I was asked by the CEO if I would be interested in becoming a trustee of the Society, and in January 2016 I was voted onto the board. As a driver or escort with the Dolphins or strollers, I meet people who are coping with sight loss on a daily basis. I enjoy helping our clients. We had a particularly enjoyable day last year at the Royal Victoria Yacht Club Disability Sailing Day, where clients and volunteers were treated to an exhilarating ride in a rib. A day to remember for all. Last year, I helped run the fundraising stall at Haven Street Steam Fair and hope to be helping at forthcoming fundraising events for the Society. At present, I am in the process of decorating the walls and paintwork at Millbrook House.
Users Forum. The Society would like to set up a Users Forum to get feedback on current services and activities, as well as developing potential new ideas and projects. We are looking for a combination of clients and volunteers who represent a cross-section of our service users and who would be willing to meet on a quarterly basis. If you are interested in being part of the forum, please phone or email Millbrook House on 522205 and leave your name and contact details.
IWSB website. For those who access the internet, please check out our website www.iwsb.org.uk, which is updated weekly with IWSB activities, news, videos and information. The weekly Talking News is also available online.
Golf. The golfers meet once a month at Westridge Golf Club Ryde. The group go onto the driving ranges and out onto the course. An instructor is available to help out beginners.
Owls. Our Owls group meet every fortnight at Millbrook House on Wednesday afternoons from 2 p.m. till 4 p.m. The Owls have different speakers who come to give talks on a variety of subjects. These have ranged from singers to ghost talks. After the talk, the group chat over a cup of tea or coffee before going home.
Knitting and Nattering Club. The knitters and natterers meet every week on Thursday from 11 a.m. until 2 p.m. at Millbrook House, where they engage with other visually impaired people. Knitting is not compulsory. In the afternoon, the group welcome volunteers who come in to read from various books about local history, general fiction, or a more popular choice, comedy.
Strollers. Strollers meet on the second Tuesday of the month. They go for gentle strolls, enjoying the island's countryside or coastal views. This is followed by lunch at a nearby pub or restaurant. The group is open to all visually impaired people who like a leisurely walk of about a mile.
Striders. Striders meet on the last Friday of every month. They walk on different routes around the island and then finish off with lunch at a local pub or restaurant. This group is available to all visually impaired people who like longer walks in the countryside.
Dolphins. Our swimming group meet every Tuesday evening from 8 p.m. till 8:45 p.m. at the Waterside Pool Ride. They have exclusive use of the pool during this session. The group is open to any visually impaired person who is a keen swimmer who just enjoys being in the water. The pool's lifeguards are in attendance during the session. Pre-registering with the society is essential, otherwise you may be refused admittance.
Bonnie Harris Fund. The trustees have agreed that individuals wanting to try out new activities, either by attending existing groups in the community or setting up a new group by themselves, can apply for a grant from the Society to cover some initial costs. There is an application process, and not all applications can be guaranteed. To find out more, contact us on 522 205 or email inquiries@iwsb.org.uk. If you are interested in joining any of the activities mentioned in this newsletter, please contact the Society for more information. Transport may be available to some of the groups.
Volunteer News Round. Michelle Taylor. Welcome. We're pleased to welcome 7 new volunteers to our team. The new members will be joining Dress for Less, minibus driving, talking news and reception. Au revoir. Sadly, we have to say goodbye to 4 volunteers and wish them well for the future. Thanks have been extended for the valuable support and commitment given by these volunteers over the years. Goodbye, but not farewell. A very big thank you to Mel for over 21 years' commitment to driving the IWSB minibus. Mel is retiring from his role as minibus driver, but continues to support the Society with the Strollers and Striders monthly walking groups. Clients, staff and volunteers will continue to keep in touch with Mel via these activities, which is good news. In recognition of Mel's many dedicated years as a volunteer driver, there was an informal thank you at Owls on the 26th of April. Miriam Tong, CEO, and Paul Rutherford, Chairman, presented Mel with a certificate of thanks from IWSB, and celebratory cake followed. Volunteer vacancies. We have volunteer vacancies in various roles, e.g. minibus driving, minibus escort, home visitors, talking news, dress for less, and fundraising throughout the summer months. Should you know anyone who may be interested, please let me know, and I will be happy to send an application pack or discuss the various volunteer roles available. Training. 30 volunteers attended the recent Safeguarding Adults and Understanding Boundaries training held at Millbrook House on the 25th of April, facilitated by Dr. Emma Sainsbury. The event was fully subscribed, and feedback following the training has been extremely positive. A light buffet lunch was served as part of the day, and this enabled volunteers to meet socially and chat about their varied roles here at IWSB. A big thank you to Emma for donating her expertise and time to this worthwhile and proactive event. We hope to run a similar event in the future for those who are unable to attend.
Volunteer Spotlight, Mel Barnes. I have driven on over 800 occasions, clocking up more than 38,000 miles, equivalent to more than 1.5 times around the world. Got into a cab at least 2,000 times, and I estimate that I have sat in the driver's seat for the equivalent of over 80 full days of my life. Some thought I slept in it. On strollers or handicraft days, I would leave home at 8:20 a.m. to get to Millbrook House, meet the escort and obtain the list showing which clients are to be picked up. After cursory check of the minibus, which included on occasion clearing frost from the windscreen, etc., we would set off by 8:50 a.m. Whichever event is taking place, the imperative is driving the most economical and shortest route, which also ensures clients are picked up on the right side of the road for their safety. The thing I learnt early on was the need to have regard to the length and width of the vehicle, and, consequently, now have much more respect for the needs of bus and lorry drivers. This was brought home to me on the only time I have had an accident resulting in an insurance claim many years ago, when the Society held their Christmas fair in the Parish Hall, Town Lane, Newport. Access to the parking area is through an arch, then an immediate right turn. My escort said, "There's a parking place," and I looked at the space he was pointing to while still turning and caught the bumper of a car which was parked on yellow lines restricting the turn. I learnt a valuable lesson: 100% concentration, and to use the rear view mirrors to check clearance when turning.
In addition to the normal weekly activities, I have driven the vehicle to island shows and special events such as the Royal Victoria Yacht Club Sailing Day, and on the mainland, that North Island, for society holidays and outings. Some will remember the Gadabouts group, and especially their visits to Lurgashaw Vinery, Sussex, and the Japanese girl, with us on work experience, who had never had alcohol before. There was also the occasion in Sussex when the vehicle lost power and I was driving uphill, flat out, at 7 miles an hour, followed by a mile-long trail of unhappy drivers. Another that stands out, which I may have mentioned in an earlier article, was the time I met a pony and trap in a narrow lane with very few passing places. It was the longest reverse that I can remember. Well, happy days, but sadly, because of insurance difficulties due to my age, they have to come to an end. Thank you, clients and volunteers, for putting up with me at the wheel. At least you won't have to wear hard hats in the future.
100 Club. The 100 Club is a monthly draw where participants pay £2 per month and are allocated a number between 1 and 100. The allocated numbers are placed in the draw, and the winner receives 40% of the total funds for that month, with the remainder going to the society. There are numbers remaining, so if you want to be a part of the 100 Club, contact the Society now. Remember, the more people who take part, the bigger the prize. The winning numbers of the most recent 100 Club draws are February, RH, number 28, March, PR, number 37, and April, MT, number 44. Congratulations to those winners.
Out with the old. The new £5 note came into circulation on the 13th of September 2016, and on the 5th of May 2017 the old £5 ceased to be legal tender. This means you may not be able to use the old notes in shops, but you should still be able to pass them over a bank or post office counter. Similarly, the new £1 coin was released into circulation on the 28th of March 2017. The old £1 coin ceases to be legal tender on the 15th of October 2017, after which you will only be able to use the old coin in a bank or post office. If you have been saving the old £5 notes or the old £1 coins, but are unable to get out to change them for the new note and coins, panic not, as IWSB is there to help. The Society will be happy to help anyone change their old notes to new notes, and, once the old £1 coin ceases to be legal tender, to help change old coins for new coins. To start the process, please phone the office on 522205 and speak to us about how much money you need to change. We will do our best to get your money changed for new style notes or coins as quickly as possible.
Dress for Less, a report from Julie Clifton. Dress for Less is going from strength to strength. As more and more people find us, we have enjoyed some of our best weeks, turnover-wise, since we opened nearly 2.5 years ago, and this is on a 5-day week. However, this new interest puts an enormous strain on our existing 14 volunteers, and that includes our volunteer managers. It is very tough taking in merchandise, selling and advising our customers, and keeping our eyes and wits about us for the light-fingered who steal from our shop, clearly dismissing that we are there for the Isle of Wight Society for the Blind. We have reviewed our security and it appears to be working. However, there must be people out there who could give us 3 hours of their precious time. Please come in and have a chat with us, as it is a very interesting shop to work in. Since the last newsletter, we have welcomed 5 new volunteers: Sue, Angie, Sharon, Shasta and Loretta. Shasta is being trained as a volunteer manager to enable us to reopen on a Monday. We have been extremely busy dressing for weddings and probably have one of the best hat selections on the island. We have also decked out women for the Royal Garden Party and, of course, the beautiful gowns for cruises at a fraction of their original price. Currently, we have some top designer brands and a great array of shoes and handbags. Our windows remain the talk of the town, or even the island, and our Facebook page remains very popular and never fails to elicit sales.
Brading Roman Villa, Ian Davidson. On Friday the 17th of March, Society members were given a conducted tour of Brading Roman Villa. Our guide told us that in 1879 a local farmer, whilst making holes for a sheep pen, discovered a buried Roman mosaic floor. A visiting Roman antiquarian helped uncover more, including a unique gallus panel depicting a person with the head of a cockerel. No one has yet been able to discover the meaning of this piece, but it may represent an ancient Gnostic deity or a satire on a gladiator called Gallus, cockerel in Latin. By 1880, half the site had been excavated, the remainder being part of the Oglander estate. Once the Oglander estate owned the whole site, excavations could continue and the site opened to the public. In 1994, a charitable trust took over the villa, and in 2004, the covering shed was replaced by the current very attractive building and visitor centre. It seems the original owners were wealthy and well educated. We were able to see and handle artefacts and visit the 12 rooms on show, including a large room used for entertainment with a beautiful mosaic, as well as the hypercaust, the central heating system. The mosaics depicted Roman gods and goddesses such as Orpheus, Bacchus, and the serpent-headed Medusa. We appreciated having the time to make our way round the interior as slowly as necessary. We were made so welcome by all at the villa. Our guides were incredibly helpful, not only giving descriptions but answering our questions. We must thank the organisers and drivers for our transport. A very interesting visit.
Highlighting Good Practice by Ruth Hollingshead. Don't get me wrong, I am the first to grumble and complain when I experience poor customer service or find an establishment difficult to access. But a recent experience has made me think that, as well as moaning, maybe I should also be giving praise where praise is due. A few weeks ago, I was on a long cane training session and was just leaving Ryde bus station to walk along the seafront. I was minding my own business when a gentleman said, "Excuse me, madam, I am from Island Roads. I just need to make sure you are aware that we are doing some work on the pavement." He then went on to ask if I needed assistance and would I like to take his arm. We did a quick shimmy around the obstacles on the pavement and I thanked him and went on my way. I know Island Roads have received a lot of flack, but I have to say that in this instance their employee got it right. He asked me politely if I needed help and then offered it both efficiently and discreetly. 10 out of 10. If you have had a similarly positive experience in a shop, at a medical appointment, on the bus, or even in the pub, we would love to hear from you. If you would like to say thank you, highlight good practice, or share a positive experience, please get in touch. The Society would love to be able to contact the person or establishment in question and let them know they have had a mention in the newsletter or on our website.
In touch. Regulars to our weekly Talking News will already be familiar with the In Touch radio podcast. However, for those of you who have not heard the programme, it is certainly worth a listen. In Touch is broadcast every Tuesday at 8:40 p.m. on Radio 4 and presented by Peter Wight. It includes news, views and information for visually impaired people. Over the last few months, it has covered topics such as the Glastonbury Festival, blind boxing, accessible mobile phones, and benefit information, cookery tips, new technology, and guide dog waiting lists. If you're unable to listen to the programme live, it is available online or at the end of the Talking News produced by IWSB.
Accessible documents. Thanks to a campaign, all health and adult social care providers in England are now required to provide medical information in a format that blind and partially sighted people can access. This is thanks to the NHS England's Accessible Information Standard, which mandates that anyone providing a service on behalf of NHS England or in adult social care must provide information in a format that patients can access. This includes appointment letters, leaflets, and letters regarding treatment and conditions, as well as the dispensing labels on prescriptions. If you need your NHS information in an alternative format, such as a text, email, large print, audio recording or braille, your GP or hospital will need to be officially notified which format is required. You can contact your GP service practice manager with your details and the format you require, or call the RNIB on 0303 123 9999.
Dates for your diary. Summer Fete, Saturday 10th of June. The Society will be holding its annual Summer Fete at Holyrood Hall, High Street, Newport on Saturday 10th of June from 10 a.m. till 2:30 p.m. There will be lots of stalls to come and see, as well as tombola, raffle and more. Refreshments will be available on the day.
Dolphin Technology Information Day, Monday the 3rd of July. Dolphin will be coming to Millbrook House along with Calibre Enhanced Vision, Orcam, Wireless for the Blind, Blind Veterans and the Macular Society. They will be bringing information and some equipment with them for demonstration. The event will be a drop-in from 10 a.m. till 2:30 p.m, so no appointments necessary.
Millbrook House Coffee Morning, 10:30 a.m. till 12 noon every Wednesday. The Macular Degeneration Society also meets on the first Wednesday of the month at the Millbrook House Coffee Morning. Coffee mornings across the island. Knighton, the post office, 10 a.m. till 11:30 a.m. on the first Tuesday of the month. Bembridge, the Cloisters, 10:15 a.m. till 12 noon on the last Tuesday of the month. Freshwater, End of the Line Cafe, 10:30 a.m. till 12 noon on the last Tuesday of the month.
And that concludes the summer edition of the newsletter for the Isle of Wight Society for the Blind from Chris
and Brian.
This is a download from the BBC. For more information and our terms of use, go to www.bbc.co.uk/in-touch. Good evening. One of the side effects of being visually impaired is that you're often not aware of how the people around you are reacting to your disability. Their body language, how they're looking, what gestures they're making. Maybe it's a blessing you don't know. Maybe it's a curse. And we don't know, of course, because we can't see it. But a sighted partner can, and sometimes they don't like it. Here's Jackie.
Earlier on in the relationship, we went into a department store. I went in to help him get some new clothes. We always walk hand in hand. I was guiding him, but I was holding his hand. And I took him to the changing rooms, and the female assistant sort of led him to this very wide changing room, clearly meant for people in wheelchairs. And she said to me, "Do you want to go in with him?" And I was a bit stunned at the time, but it was only after when I became angry. She was treating me as if I was his carer and not his lover.
So how typical is that experience? And how common is this confusion between being a lover or a carer? And does it matter? Well, I invited two visually impaired people into the studio to discuss it, Red Sale and Kirsten Hearn. And you'll also be hearing other contributions along the way. Kirsten and Red started by telling me a bit more about their personal situations.
I've been married for 20 years this month to Kate, and when I first met her, I had my diagnosis of retinitis pigmentosa and used a white stick at night, but you wouldn't have known that I was visually impaired as I got round during the day. I suppose Kate has lived with my sight loss for those 20 years, and as I've needed more help, she's taken on the in sickness and in health aspect of the wedding vows, and she's just given me more help as and when I've asked for it.
And Kirsten, what about you?
Well, I'm a lesbian about town, as I say. I'm not currently could be described as in a traditional relationship, but I have had quite a few serial monogamous relationships in the past with sighted and visually impaired and other disabled partners.
So from your point of view, Kirsten, starting with you, what's your reaction to this and this confusion that our listener discovered between being a lover or a girlfriend or a boyfriend and being a carer?
Well, you know, we really shouldn't be let out alone, and therefore there's always going to be someone in charge of us. And the fact that we shouldn't really be having relationships anyway because we're poor benighted things means that is quite often the reaction. It's a little more interesting when the partner is themselves obviously disabled in some way, because there's this confusion about who is helping who, and the one who appears to be less disabled often gets labelled as the carer.
But the fact is, you recognise this as a fairly regular thing that happens to you.
Yes, in all kinds of circumstances. I might be at a concert with a friend and it's assumed that they are my carer. I might be down the pub getting drunk with a friend and they still assume that they are my carer and clearly leading me astray. So there doesn't seem to be this recognition that the person with us might actually be with us for the purpose of friendship, love, or whatever it might be. It seems to be that they're just with us because they're helping us. In my misguided youth, when I consorted with the other side, I had a particularly hairy boyfriend, and we were in the pub and somebody came up to me and said, "Are you her social worker? Do you think she should be drinking that pint of gin?" or what I was drinking. He was aghast, I was aghast. He was more aghast because actually he was younger than me and was very affronted to be thought to be my elderly social worker. I was astonished because I'd never been seen dead with one.
So this has been happening for quite a long time. I think that's what we can assume. Yeah. Now, Red, what about you? Because in a sense, with the way you introduced yourself, there could be a confusion in the sense that because you have come new to some things and Kate has come new to some things, I suppose there could be confusion, couldn't there?
I hate to say it, we make it up as we go along, and whether I'm with Kate or a friend, there is a degree of care that person who is leading you from the tube station to Broadcasting House, for instance, they actually assume that carer mantle. But I suppose in the same way that I've learnt that I have to ask for help in certain situations, otherwise I'll get hit by a number 9 bus, I've just got used to swallowing my pride and going, yeah, fine, other people's ignorance is just one of those day-to-day things that you have to put up with.
I suppose I should say, just so I can join in this, because I'm in a slightly different situation to both of you. Well, until last year, when she died, I was married to a sighted person who would have had quite a lot to say about this were she still here. And we were married for 44 years. So, there were quite a lot of views about it. What I really like to know is how you deal with the situation. Kirsten?
In socialising, it's quite necessary to give me some assistance if I don't have a support worker, stroke PA, stroke carer with me, and anybody who goes out with me will get used quite quickly to help me find the toilet, for example, or finding the bar or whatever, or the bus stop, all those kinds of things. So that's kind of there anyway. And the last relationship I had was actually with a partially-sighted person. She said to me that she felt really visible, that she could, as a partially-sighted person, to some extent pass, except she would occasionally look confused because she couldn't read something like a bus number or whatever it was. But she could, on the whole, walk down the road and not be noticed, whereas she said when she's with me, we're both being stared at. And it was interesting because her impairment didn't become obvious unless associated by me. And no one realised that she was actually my partner because we don't exist.
The problem, I think, is what this implies about the balance in a relationship between you, that somehow it's not mutual. Now, it may be, the example we were told about at the beginning, that was a situation where maybe you could assume that somebody needed help. But they were obviously making a situation that it's not mutual attraction, it's not mutual effort, it's not a balance of contribution. Red, do you sense that people are actually judging the relationship in a way?
To an extent, yes. I mean, it's that old, does he take sugar thing. It gets my goat and Kate's goat whenever people ask, what's he going to have for supper? And I think that's where it really cuts in. However, I'm also made very aware that it is quite a responsibility for Kate. She probably does get sick and tired of it from time to time. So I just make sure that actually, if we have been out and she does come home and want to put her feet up, I'll go and make the tea, I'll go and empty the bins, I'll do all the bits and pieces that I can do to repay her kindness. I don't know if that sounds too wishy-washy, or repay her love, actually. It is a balance. Certainly when we go out as a sort of bigger family, I'll not always take Kate's hand. I might sort of take one of the kids' hands or my mother-in-law's hand or whatever.
The kids can come in useful, can't they, from time to time?
That's why we have them.
Yeah, of course. But that's an assumption as well that's made. I mean, I have to say the number of times that people will say, when my kids were little, they would say, isn't it good of you to guide your daddy around like that? The assumption being almost what you said, Red, that's why we had them and how useful. And that gives rise to some of this mawkish stuff you get about child carers. Kirsten, what about you?
I'm fairly assertive about what I need and what I don't need with friends and lovers. And I quite often will say, if we're going to go somewhere and I'm just going to go with a partner or a friend, haven't got a PA with me or support worker or whatever it is, I might say, I will need some assistance. Is that okay? And I do tend to say, I don't assume that they're going to assist. I say, I'm with one person, so would you mind giving me a hand to do this? And they're perfectly happy to do it, really, because they're enjoying being with me. If I'm in a group, I kind of rotate my favours asking, really. And I think, I asked so-and-so before, let me ask this next person if they can give me a hand. It's very strange, though, because I do think that lovers and partners do get into this kind of like wanting to support and care and whatever it might be because they love you.
But the problem is the assumption that the support isn't even, isn't it? I think Jeff Long, who's a fairly regular contributor to this programme, he talked about this whole business of the balance and in a way how you try and keep the balance equal.
I just go from event to event. When I think I need help, I ask for it. I don't philosophise about it. For instance, I had a fully sighted wife and she used to drive me to music gigs where I used to play. Now, obviously, I couldn't have got there without her. It wasn't an independence issue. But what I used to try to do was to make sure that there were things I could do to even up the balance. I've never done a DIY job in my life, and I've never ironed a shirt in my life. So in those two areas, I am absolutely not independent. But I've made enough money through my own efforts to be able to pay someone to do those jobs for me. So I don't need to be independent for those particular jobs.
That was Jeff Long. I get the sense, Red, that in a way that this feels slightly different for you because of the fact that you've been in a situation of deteriorating sight, so that perhaps the things you do and the things you need help with are changing all the time.
I think the fact that we've had 2 decades to make it up as we go along allows you to adapt. It allows you to discuss these things. It's not a sudden change. Also, coming back to sort of sharing the burden, I stayed at home and looked after the kids. I carried on cooking and sort of taking them backwards and forwards to school. And I suppose I showed myself still to be capable of contributing something to the relationship, which changes people's perceptions of what you do.
But you're still sounding quite tolerant about it, as if almost they might be right.
I'm a lot less angry in my late 40s than I was in my 20s.
Let's not forget how this was raised by a partner and by a sighted partner. What do you think the appropriate way for that sighted partner to react actually is? Because my late wife could be quite rude about it. I mean, her basic phrase was, "Why don't you ask him? He's standing there." Which sounds rude, but sometimes you just felt you had to do it.
And I think that's right. It's very difficult, really, because you don't want people to fight the battles for you. That's the thing, really. And there's something about over-indignant anger by partners and friends who witness discrimination being faced by the individual disabled person. And I think that can be slightly irritating because, excuse me, but I want to be indignant. Thank you very much. So get over it. But actually, what I say to people who kind of like, are going with me anywhere, doing something with me, is I say, you may find people talk to you, not me. And my best advice to you is simply drop eye contact. If that doesn't work, then you might need to point it out to them. So actually body language is quite good because they do literally look in the other direction. And it's very hard, I think, to talk to somebody who's not looking at you deliberately in that kind of way. So that's quite good. That's subtle and not passive-aggressive or even very aggressive. But if that doesn't work, they will quite often say, ask her. I don't know.
I think that's a very, very good point. Red, Kirsten makes an interesting point, which is actually you don't necessarily want your partner to react at all, in a way. And I've met Kate, and I know she's not backward in coming forward. I just wondered what happened in your situation.
We try and short-circuit the assumption type of thing that you get in shops and restaurants by, if I'm going clothes shopping, she will take me to an assistant, hand me to that assistant and said, right, he's looking for men's clothes, I'm off to look for some women's clothes. At which point I am the sales assistant's responsibility, and usually it works. Every so often I'll come out wearing clothes which Kate will look at me going, well, they clearly aren't married to you. But, she always will come into the changing room just to check that I'm not wearing anything that really looks undignified. I think actually we're just quite upfront about it.
I think you've highlighted the problem with clothes shopping, of course, which is that it falls between two stools in a way. It's quite nice to go with someone who has a reasonably good record of finding stuff that you don't look a twerp in. On the other hand, I can understand why she's keen to not do it all the time. And also, of course, you can be in the situation where you've been told that what your partner is choosing for you isn't actually suiting you particularly well. So I'm a bit torn on that issue. Just want to change tack slightly. Can there be a tendency, for all we're being quite, we're talking about indignant about this, to use our sighted partners as carers, albeit maybe subconsciously? I mean, there are so many issues, aren't there, where sighted partners can be handy, driving, sorting out clothes, doing more share of the housework, maybe. I mean, I just wonder whether we're blaming the public for their perception. I wonder if sometimes there is some confusion about whether people are carers or not.
Well, there might be, actually. And I think also that it's quite dangerous and rather injurious to relationships quite often, because then, when partners feel they've got to be there to help you, that's not part of the thing they signed up for, really, in that kind of way. And I think there has to be a balance struck. It's quite difficult, really. But, I mean, it's jolly handy to have a sighted person around. I actually live alone, and I just save up everything I need to know for the next person who walks through the door, whoever that is. And I don't always know who's going to open some personal piece of post. They're very handy. And I think actually in circumstances where you might go on holiday with a partner, it's extremely handy, actually, especially somewhere where the attitudes towards disabled people might be a bit different, to actually have somebody who's ready and willing and able to assist. But I still think it has some issues and problems in that, when do you get space from each other? And that's been a very important thing for me in my friendships and relationships is to actually make sure I can maintain a level of autonomous space, really, and non-dependency on somebody, because I haven't had this great long relationship you've had, Red, actually, so I don't like to get too dependent in case they bugger off somewhere. But then what will I do about my matching socks?
Well, that's right. And we have to admit the reality of the situation. It's quite common for me to yell out in the office, can I have a pair of eyes over here, please? Because often all you want is something really quick in 10 seconds flat. But the problem for a partner, of course, is that in a way they're always there and therefore they can always be called upon.
I think it all comes down to communication at the end of the day. I mean, I suppose I'm lucky that I've always managed to keep a level of independence that means that I like my own company, and I realise that Kate and my kids and my friends don't need me weighing them down all the time, to be perfectly honest. And I think we've got to be open to that and realise that it can be burdensome to other people.
Right. Just teasing out this burdensome weighing you down. That's an interesting... I know what you mean, actually, but I always feel uncomfortable when I think about that for myself. Oh, am I being a burden to somebody?
Well, it's a burden to us. I mean, blindness is a burden to us, and I think people who care and help you are sharing that burden.
Okay.
But I think, Red, there's a difference perhaps between what's happened to you in a way and perhaps what's happened to Kirsten and I, in that we've been blind for longer. I think we've grown up thinking, actually, we do play our part in a relationship. And this is what irritates me about it. It's the assumption that the relationship is somebody needing help and somebody giving it. Now, that certainly wasn't true in my relationship with Jo, I don't think. I don't think I'm being arrogant in saying I did my part in that relationship. And I guess when people take this attitude of regarding your partner as a carer, what they're actually doing is chipping away at what that relationship really is, or making an irritating assumption about what that relationship really is.
True.
And isn't that, as you said, isn't that true in your case, Red, in the sense that you are a house husband, you do your bit?
Oh, yeah, certainly. I mean, don't get me wrong, I think that blindness adds a degree of difficulty to everyday life that just makes things take longer, apart from anything else, and can be depressing to all of us.
And the tendency to say, well, just do it, because it's quicker and we need to be at the theatre in 15 minutes' time.
Exactly. And I don't see my wife as my carer. I just see her as the person who cares most.
Thanks to Kirsten Hearn and Red Sale, and to everyone else who took part today. We're really keen to hear about your experiences. You can email us on intouch@bbc.co.uk, or you can call our action line for 24 hours after the programme. That's 0800 044 044. For tonight, though, from me, Peter White, producer Cheryl Gabriel and the team, goodbye.